Hello and welcome to Concert Pipeline. That's Jens Schippel.
And that is Steve Jones.
And Jens, we have our first in-person pod in, it's probably been about 4 months.
It hasn't been 4 months. I'm trying to remember where the location was because it feels more like, 4 years.
We've done very few over the course of the COVID period. And the last one was in your backyard. And we were both sitting across from each other at the table, 6 feet distance.
That's right. Yeah.
We'll come briefly to this camera to show that we're about 15 feet now because we had a technical issue and had to ditch one of the pods that we did because of a little bit of echo. We found ourselves listening to each other talking across the table as opposed to through our ear pods. And
right.
That didn't work out too well.
Yeah, no, that didn't work out too well at all. I remember that. And it was a very disorienting experience because we always, had to listen to each other twice. So it was hard to know which conversation to follow, whether it was the original conversation or the echo in our ears.
But now with about 15 feet, we think that's a good distance. We're going to go with it. And we are distanced, not because of COVID, because we are both fully vaccinated. But
right. Thank you.
But we are distanced. Boom, right?
Fully vaccinated. And we also upgraded the technology. So we've got the pros in instead of just the regular AirPods, and the noise canceling feature is pretty damn awesome. I mean, I can barely hear you outside of my ears, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, I do.
The real you I can't hear, but the in-ear you I can hear.
The in-ear me, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to say that we have Patti Parks on the program today, and she has a new album coming out on May 28th called Whole Nother World. So
nice.
I had a chance to listen to it, and it's pretty great. It's she's a great blues musician. We'll get into that, and we'll bring her in just a little bit. But before we do, Jens, I have a story. We like to share a story before we bring our artists in.
We do. And Steve, I just want to give you a nice, gentle, kind reminder. Please don't be offended by this, but please keep your story short because we got a pizza in the oven and I don't want it to burn.
We do have a pizza in the oven, so that is a consideration.
Minutes.
I will make sure this is short enough to get our pizza so it doesn't burn, okay?
Hit me, what you got?
So yesterday I get a call from my son's principal, and I'm not ready for that call yet, of like, okay, what did he do now? But it turned out that someone in his class was exposed. Did not expose themselves, but it was exposed to COVID. Or had tested positive as COVID. Yeah.
You got to be careful with the word exposed.
Yes.
Okay, this isn't like some sexual thing where some kid exposed themselves at school, right?
No, and these are 7-year-olds too. So
right, we're talking about COVID. So, all right. Well, that's kind of scary. So, what happened?
Yeah. So, get the call. Obviously, they don't tell you who it is. It could be a student or a faculty member, or what have you. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't his teacher or his aide, because they were still meeting with him. They were planning on meeting with him virtually still and still coming to class, but everything got moved to distance, right? And the principal, just encouraged, confinement to isolate yourself as much as possible. 3 of the 4 parental figures in his life are fully vaccinated at this point, with the exception of being his stepdad, who will be getting the first shot on Thursday. And so we're not too concerned about him getting or transmitting COVID per se, because with us it's pretty safe. But we're going to do the same thing. But today he couldn't go to school. Right? It was going to be distance, but it wasn't my day with the kids. He was with his mom, and and she had to also drop off my daughter across town at school. Which left him unable to do distance learning, and then what my ex-wife does sometimes with my daughter, up until she started going back 4 days a week now, full days, is she would actually start out some days with my daughter tethering to her phone and going distance in the car while they wait for my son to get out of school.
Oh, okay.
She can't do that with my son though, because he has a Chromebook and we don't know how to tell her. I don't know any way to connect that to an iPhone.
Okay.
So this is real exciting, right? I know.
I'm like trying to figure out, how do you connect a Chromebook? Like, I've never seen a Chromebook in my life, so I know nothing about that. Sorry, I'm
I don't know.
useless.
They're not fun. But yeah, so he had to miss school today, and then today I get this text from the California COVID team, and they're like, "Look, be safe. We're going to call you today from this number. Answer the call." And so, not less than a minute later, I get a call from the
No way.
CA COVID team. And I happened to be on the phone with my buddy Joe at the time. and
Right.
and I'm like, I think I should take this. I didn't even get to read the whole text that they had sent, but they called and they're like, yeah, go ahead and quarantine yourself. That's what we recommend. I'm like, okay, yeah, most of us are vaccinated in the circle, so but we'll be safe and wear the mask and everything like that. But it was just interesting to get that call,
Yeah, it's interesting to be part of that experience. So I'm assuming here that this is part of the team that kind of narrowed down the exposure, and they just connected with everyone involved and gave them the next steps or whatever of what to do.
Yeah. And what was really weird was that they brought Dr. Fauci on the line to talk to me. And
that's awesome. He's a cool dude.
It was really personalized experience. So, I really appreciate that he's looking out for every person who could be affected, right?
That guy's amazing. I mean, he must either be like some kind of vampire that doesn't sleep, or he's cloned himself, because he's been going around doing this for everyone in the country. He even called me and he said, dude, I'm really sorry that you're getting all these emails about how important it is that you need to go right now and get yourself vaccinated. And apparently you're two different databases that don't talk to each other, and we've corrected the problem, and we know you've been vaccinated already. So it was really cool. And we did shots of tequila and everything. It was awesome.
That was really cool. And what I heard also was he gave you your shot personally, right?
Well, yes, he did, but he was dressed up. He was dressed up as someone else, and he tried to be like your typical nurse, I guess, but there was just something about him that seemed a little bit off.
Dr. Fauci dressed up as a nurse. I get it.
He sounded like an older man dressed in drag, basically, is kind of what he looked like. So, was kind of wondering, like, what's with that weird nurse? So it kind of looks like, whatever, okay, transgender, I don't know, don't want to,
But you're like, it's cool. I'm totally okay with this. Just stick it in me, right?
Yeah. And so when I got the second vaccine, it was also from Dr. Fauci, and then I put two and two together. I'm like, okay, you're like a drag queen. Didn't realize that. Just, I'll bend over, just give it to me. I don't want it in an arm because I can't sleep when I toss and turn. So just give it to me in the ass. I'm cool. I just want to I want vaccinated. I want to be vaccinated. I want to feel safe in the world. I need to move on. Dude, I haven't sat down all week.
First time, huh? So this, you told us last week about your experience. Are you feeling better after your vaccine shot?
I am, but could you check the pizza timer real quick? I do want to tell you all about my horrid experience I had with my symptoms after the second shot, but just check the pizza timer. Do you smell smoke?
No, I think we're okay. You got 3 to 4 minutes to tell us your story.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, I don't like to admit that I might be kind of a wimp, and I don't want to kind of stereotype the male gender for being less tolerant to pain than women are. But basically, yeah, I like cried like a little girl. Maybe not that bad, but I literally did feel like I was roadkill for a good 2.5 days. Got the shot early in the morning on a Saturday, and then late afternoon, early evening, I was just sore everywhere, and the next day I had zero energy and I couldn't do anything. I was lying on the couch, and when I had enough energy, like I would go to bed, when I would go back to the couch. This whole thing lasted 2.5 days, but dude, I got through all of the Mexican drug cartel movies on Netflix, And if you guys
You
out
cornered them
there have
all,
not
right?
seen
Yeah.
those, you've got to see them. They're pretty epic.
You went down a rabbit hole and,
Yep, sure did.
no regrets,
Yeah,
right? So.
yeah. So for those of you wondering why there's a little dog barking in the background, I think it's because he smells smoke and like the pizza is burning at this point.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. Well, it sounds like we should bring our guest in and go have some pizza in between and then round out this pod, right? So.
Well, let's do that.
All right. Well, let's bring Patti Parks in and have a chat with her about her world of music. Here it is.
Sounds good. Welcome, Patti.
Better. How are you doing, Patti?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Oh no, my pleasure. I appreciate it. I just got done with rehearsal and we got so involved with the music and I went, oh my God, it's almost 5:00. So this is good. This is good.
Yeah. How did rehearsal go?
Went well. It went well. We got some new players and they brought a little something to the sound. So I'm so excited about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tell me about who you have that you're working with now.
Well, right now I've got 2 young players. I got a Donnie Hoffmeyer, and I also have a gentleman named Colin Reninsky, and he's playing the bass. And of course, the V3 player, Guy Norelli, is with me as well. And what we're doing is actually the album's dropping in May. So that's what we're working on. Try to redo what that or capture that sound that we got on that album, with Kenny Neal. So that's our challenge.
You're practicing for live performances?
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
So the album will drop at the end of May. And that's when we're going to be able to come live with everything.
Yeah. So talk to me about this past year and how it's been, because I know you and Guy had some struggles. And I'm glad to hear that you and especially him as well are doing well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I know I'm not the only one, but last year was a horrific time, and so you just wonder how people themselves and all their trials got through anything, right? But last year was extremely bad. I mean, I lost my son as well. Secondary to the isolation, which is all related to COVID. And then, of course, my husband, Guy, who was my V3 player, ended up with a terrible case of COVID, ended up on a ventilator. And we're talking probably 3 months of a touch and go scenario. And 3 months before that, I lost my son. So it was a devastating year. It was blistering.
Yeah. Yeah, and as a parent, you're never set up to, for the feeling, I imagine, of losing one of your kids. I mean, it's just you don't think that's ever going to be possible, right? Like
exactly. I mean, with him in particular, it's been a battle, and an own struggle for him. He suffered from chemical dependency, which is a subject that most people don't want to talk about too much now, but it's coming more to the forefront. So his challenges were there since he was 15, and these are things that people don't understand. Our potentiation to become dependent on chemicals is just by exposure. It's already planned for you in your brain, the chemicals that are in your brain. So that being said, since 15, it's been his challenge, and I've always been there trying to, do as most parents do to help them support him through that. But when the pandemic hit, that was more than anybody could handle that suffer from chemical dependency and depression or any codependent type of behaviors, so that was very devastating for me. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is that this whole this project was on board a long time prior to this. At least we started in 2019. But we're ready. It takes a while to get everything together and get that mastering and all of that stuff. So the project was obviously had to be put on hold for the pandemic, and then even after that, when Guy Norelli actually made a turnaround was when we were able to follow through with the project. So I'm very humbled by not being in control of anything and just accepting whatever comes our way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to talk about, the formation of the band and kind of the roots, and you and Guy, of course, there's a really great story there. But let's start back at the beginning. Like, what music were you into as a kid? What were your parents playing in the household?
Oh, yeah. So that's pretty cool. So when I grew up, I came, in a house that there was music all the time. My mother always sang to me. She was Italian from, and so there was music that she would sing in Italian, and also we always had big gatherings. So me as a little girl, I remember, and it's so funny because I had no fear at all. And there was a big wedding, I recall, right? And everybody was looking for me. Well, sure enough, I was with the group, the wedding. I was dancing, and and that's so. If you want to go that far back, that's
Yeah.
that's where it started. It was very, very young. But the other thing is, my father was played violin, and he also loved the big band era and all of that. So I heard that all the time. But my biggest idol was Liza Minnelli. What?
Yes.
So I'm a blues singer now, but I absolutely love Liza Minnelli. And I just loved her stage presence. And I just love the fact that when she sang, it just came like right out, all this soulful singing and the power behind it. So I used to, like, for hours, I used to close my door and put that music on and sing to it for hours. But on top of that, I loved the cello. So where I went to school, I had opportunities to play any instrument, and I sort of gravitated to the cello. So I was a very serious player. I thought to myself, oh my God, I'd love to be in the Philharmonic, right? And I studied under the first chair of the Buffalo Philharmonic, which was great. And then I did some stuff with one of the other symphonies in our orchestras in my area where they took students on, and I could be, they could serve as my mentor. So I was pretty serious involved with that. But as you know, just like you think you're the best basketball player and you're really, really good, and then you try out for the team and you're like, what? So
Yeah.
it came to mind that I thought I was a pretty good cellist, but my goodness, there's one place, one chair, whether it was a junior orchestra or there beyond. How did they end up doing that? I just practiced for like 20 hours and look at that. So I understood that. So I sort of got that microphone in my hand and started to fall in love with singing more so. So then that goes into the story you're talking about, right? So I started to look where I could sing, and I swear to God, I missed my prom. I got
Really?
part of this trio, right? And so it was Guy Belly, my husband, a keyboard player, and another player, Joel Thomas.
I want to, before we get into that, I want to ask you just one off question about Liza Minnelli. What did you think about her role in Arrested Development?
I'm on the fence about that.
Uh-huh.
I don't really, it's hard for me to even comment on that. I think I'm going to ask you what you thought before I trap myself in my thoughts.
I didn't grow up as a fan of her, so I don't have that context to kind of go with, but I thought it was really enjoyable and dynamic. I thought it added a great spark to the show.
Uh-huh. Well, I think a lot of her own personality and her gut reaction to things was present all through that time. And you got that. You never saw her performances right there on the stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. So okay, back to the band, the trio. So you get together with Guy, and who is the third?
Oh, so his name was Joel Thomas. So you have to understand, I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was pretty serious in cello at 16, still playing, but now I get a chance to sing. Woo-hoo. So I did. And we had a drum, electronic drum kit, right, if you will, playing along, if you can picture this. So that's what we did. I had our little trio and we did that. And then what had happened was my parents had come to hear us. And there was a little conversation there that my mother did not approve of. And it was more like, geez, you know what? There's some gigs coming up and they can all go on the road together. Well, my mother, being a mother, was not happy about that. So she ended that entire gig at that point,
Were you in a relationship with Guy at that point at all? Or
no,
was there
not
any?
at all. No, not at all. Weren't even thinking, no, not at all. It was all about, having fun and doing music. That's what's
Yeah.
funny about it, right? No,
Yeah.
not at all. And we used to go and practice and all that time. We were pretty serious about it. But once my mother said, oh, there was a comment she didn't approve of, that was it. So I felt really bad, but I had to take me out of the band, and I had apologized. And I said, I can't, my mother won't let me. Of course, I'm 17 years old, right? So as life would have it, right? I got married the first time around, and I had children, and and went my little way that way. And unfortunately, one of the things you'll find when you probably through your interviews is that it's really important, if you have this love for music and this need to perform, that you need to be with somebody just like that, because it's very difficult. It's very difficult. And so the first marriage wasn't exactly what I thought it would be, and it turned pretty sour, actually. And so it wasn't accepted, or I'm going to use the word allowed. And I was young when I got married. Music was not to be part of my life, and I accepted that. So as time would have it, I raised some beautiful children, and the marriage went sour. But in that time frame, later on in life, in a marriage, I decided to be a nurse, and I'll tell you where I'm going with this, because it all fit in for you. I'm a pretty complicated person. But anyway, so after that, I did get a divorce, and it's my first time out after being divorced, and lo and behold, I'm at a Harley Davidson rally. I don't ride
100th anniversary. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't ride a motorcycle. I don't know what brought me there. So anyway, lo and behold, there's a guy in a rally, and hi, are you a guy? And he said, he did not even know who I was.
Really didn't even remember.
But he said to me, now when we laugh at it, he said, I didn't care. I said, oh yes, I am. So that was the perfect start. So anyway, we were talking, and he said to me, are you still singing? And I said, oh no, that's all gone. I haven't sang it. It's all gone. He said, I bet if I put a microphone in front of you, it's all over. And I very seldom tell him he's right.
Yeah.
And in this case, oh my goodness. Now, the funny part about it is, he did encourage me to start. And the first time I sang out, I closed my eyes. I was so scared. Now, if you saw me, I'm pretty scary on stage, right? But I remember doing that. In other words, what I'm trying to tell you is coming out of this cocoon, right? So in a very, very short time, all these accolades started to happen. And he encouraged me to sing blues. I said, and to all my blues lovers, and believe me, I understand it now, and really have felt what it's like to become part of that genre. Not then, but when I was first approaching it, and I looked at him, I said, really? I don't think so. He said, I'm telling you, it's soulful. It is who you are. So that being said, I represented our area. It went very, very quickly. It was almost like, I remember doing an interview when I first, I actually won a competition to go to the IBCs. So, and I just remember that someone had said to me, so can you describe what's happened to you over time? Like all of a sudden, I said, the only way I can describe it is like I had this light and somebody put a bushel over it, right? Mm-hmm. When the bushel was removed, finally, it was like the light was able to shine as bright as it could. And that's the way I can describe my life.
Yeah. And so what music did you gravitate to before the blues?
Show music. It was that Liza Minnelli thing. Then more into R&B. And then I found out too that there was something happening with my vocal, and and R&B is pretty close to a lot of the stuff with the blues. But I really liked the chord changes with the blues, and it really, to be honest with you, that's when the emotional piece was able to come back. So all that stuff that went on in my life, and also dealing with my son who had chemical dependency, life was not easy before I came out to sing. So I think once I started to use that as an avenue to kind of release all that experience in life, was when I got this great attachment to the music. you know.
Yeah. And so your first album, Cheatin' Man, right, came out in 2013. Tell me kind of about your process in making that album.
Well, that's a self-produced album. All those songs are original, and Guy Norelli wrote them all. And in that particular album, we had a variance of varying different feels and stuff on that song. It was recorded here where I live. We had a really good mastering engineer, the same mastering engineer that worked on this latest album as well. So that took not as long as this project for sure. But we did get. I mean, it was like I said, self-produced. It was promoted as I have now, globally. It was not picked up by VizTone at that time or any of that. We were just doing it on our own, and that really did very, very well globally. I was able to really be able to connect with a lot of different parts, especially the Netherlands and all that. I did a lot of interviews, and we ended up on the charts in that area, and we were happy about it. We were very good as being our first project, if you will.
And so how did you land on Guy writing the album, versus, I mean, did you try taking a stab at some of it? How do you find that great point for collaboration between you both?
Well, you know what it is? I think the match is this. A lot of times what happens, he'll come up with a lyric, and sometimes what we'll do is I'll say, let me communicate the lyrics for you. Okay. So sometimes he'll sing it back to me and I'll say, I think this is how it should sound. Does that sound okay with you? And then sometimes it's like it evolves to a whole different feel or a whole different sound. And that's kind of how we collaborate. Sometimes we butt heads, but it's okay. It's good. Because at the end point, we just both want to have a really good sounding album. But I think in this particular case, I say to him, let me communicate those lyrics for you. And that's really, I think, the way it's been very successful for the two of us.
Yeah, and so I mean, between the big gap between the Good Life Trio, like what did you take away from Good Life Trio that you were able to apply to your own solo music?
So I think the fact that we were able to create at the time and have that freedom, there was not like we were trying to mimic anything. And that's the same thing that is occurring now. I think that, I try to be unique in myself when I am communicating lyrics and telling my story, if you will, musically. So I think it's really the same in that regard. But I think that I've grown as an artist and, kind of, challenged myself to try different things and just to make it more meaningful.
Yeah. Cool. So, talk to me. Let's talk a little bit about the new album, right? A Whole Nother World. So it's been a couple years since your last album. How did you approach kind of going in and creating this new album?
Well, here's the thing. Kenny, Neal, and I have spoken before. We actually met in Memphis, Tennessee, way before this. So this album really was the start of our conversation that we had. And because I was doing some demo material, original material, and he said, you know what, I'd like for you to come down to Baton Rouge. Let's review some material that I think you may like. And so he sent me some songs. And some of those songs were recorded earlier by a young woman. Her name is Erica Gerwin. And unfortunately, she passed very young. So she never really had an opportunity to really shine like she should have. She was an incredible singer. So I was honored because Kenny was part of her band. And he brought me this material. And I felt as though it was a gift to be able to take that material and hopefully have the world hear it as it should have been. I'm not Erica, I'm Patti, but I felt a close connection with the material. So a lot of the songs were originally sang by Erica Gerwin. So those songs I chose. Then there were two songs that we did not do ahead of time. We did them when I went down to Baton Rouge. So if you can imagine, I'm in, I'm close to Buffalo, close to Canada, right? I'm in Western New York. I'm going to the South to Baton Rouge. I never got any tape to sing to at home. It's not like he pre-recorded, the material and I sang to it at home. No. The best thing that happened with this album, Steve, was that I could hear musicians live. And then they recorded it live. And then I sang the back, and did the vocals again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with Erica's music, you were able to kind of put yourself there, right? You were able to feel that connection to the music and kind of transpose it in a way that kind of accentuates you as an artist, but pays homage to, the work that she did, right?
Absolutely. And the thing of it is the whole thing. That's why that's the best title for this album is A Whole Nother World, because literally it was for me in so many ways. It was from the time that I came to Baton Rouge that Kenny picked me up at the airport, and the feel and the vibe that was and existed, the sense of community, the sense of music, the sense of pride. I was just like wowed by that. And as you say, well, why is that important? Because that was transmitted through the vocals and the feeling of that album. It started from that point on. So that all those feelings and sensations and all of that stuff. I mean, I actually recorded in Kenny Neal's studio, okay, where Kenny used to live, okay. So we went through his neighborhood. He introduced me to his old friends, and it was unbelievable. I was still seeing, people playing in their garages, playing harmonica on, on older amps and all of that. It was almost like it was amazing. And then to have to record the way I did, and I stayed there for 2.5 days in that studio, and there was memorabilia from the Neal family all over the place. It was incredible.
Yeah. And so what did Kenny bring out of you? And also I want to ask about Baby B. I know he sang with you on that, like where that decision came from.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Kenny just is Kenny. He'll just throw something out and you'll go, okay, we'll try it. He's brilliant that way, but he's a very subtle brilliant, right? So he said, how about we do this duet? Goes like this. Never heard it before. Didn't know the lyrics or anything. But he said, repeatedly, he would say, just sing the song. Just sing it. And I've never done an acoustic recording ever. But man, when he started and that voice he has, I just became a different soloist. It was just incredible. So that's what he brings out in somebody. It's almost like, and the other thing is too, he is a mentor in so many ways. Like he'll stop and he'll say, I need to hear this. I don't hear that. How about a little more of that? And you direct it. He's just very subtle in his approach, but all of a sudden when you're done, you're wowed by what you just did, right? So, especially Baby B. I mean, I really didn't expect that. And the other song that we did was, it's Man's World. Right?
Yeah, James Ryan, yeah.
Yeah. So I said, you know what? I do perform that very often, and prior to coming. And I said, I don't know, what do you think about that? He said, well, let's do it. I was like, okay, that's a big song, right? It's a big song. But we wanted to do it for a taken on it, and we ended it differently with a whisper instead of this big crazy run, right? And it was just a little bit different, a little eerie at the end of that song. But we did not plan that song. It happened down in Baton Rouge, you see. But other stuff that Kenny does, like, for example, the horn lines, things like that, because he produced, arranged all of these things, right? So he would just do a horn line in his head, and it would be it. It would be like in about 5 minutes. And then, of course, the musicianship there's crazy. These musicians that I've never met before did whatever he, asked, and that was it.
Yeah. And so with It's a Man's World, that song, like we talked about with Erica, stuff, you want to kind of make it your own, but pay tribute to the person who wrote it, right? So You told me some of the stuff you changed up. Like, tell me how you made those decisions to kind of personalize it in that way. What was the approach for going into covering that song?
You know, Steve, I'm going to honestly tell you, it's one of those things that are never planned. And it wasn't like, oh, let's just do it that way. I just, in the moment, or a couple tries that we said, well, let's do it one more time and just like he had said, sing the song. That I ended up doing it, but he just said, oh my God, do that ending again and again and again. There's a real high note at the end. And I just kept on doing it. And then of course the engineering piece of it is what it, made it what it was, and that eerie sound. But to be honest with you, it's really about, and any singer will tell you this, it's about the musicians around you that bring an inspiration out in the time that you do things that you never thought about. And that's the best way. It's to create, you're creating it in the moment. And I think that's when I know that things are happening right, is when I am brought to that level where I can just create something in the moment.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that you are a nurse as well. I mean, we could talk for a long time about this, but I mean, I imagine this year has been pretty heavy for you, from a nurse's perspective. Can you tell me like what, you're an active nurse, right?
Yes.
So
I actually run an entire unit, and I take care of veterans. It's been, first of all, scary, and it's when it started, scary. Like it's not like anybody experienced this before. Like a lot of going one direction and another, trying to protect people. When it started early in the year, I think it's been a very difficult time for everybody, for families, the isolation from families not seeing their loved ones, the death of a lot of my patients, and knowing that we couldn't do any more for them. It's been, will always be in my mind. And I know I'm not just the only one. It's kind of like you just cannot believe how quickly it spread. And then, of course, to the caregivers, and my employees, one after another, being out, and then having the devastation with their families and being isolated. It's just, you can't even put in words how this will be forever in our hearts and our minds. And then to have it, to experience it on the other side,
Yeah.
And but like I said, when I always say this, I believe in resilience, and I believe in having enough power to get up and work forward, no matter what the circumstances are. And I try to empower our families that have dealt with this and others, because it's just a lot bigger than we were.
Yeah. And so, I mean, as it was starting, like, I mean, was this completely a foreign idea to you? How did how were you thrown into this, and what did that look like for you? Were you scared for your family, like at the beginning?
I was. I mean, first of all, in the work situation, all hands are on deck, right? So long
Yeah.
hours, moving people constantly, getting people from the other part of the hospital come to work, that kind of thing, making sure we have proper protective equipment, which we had where I am, and all of those things. And then, like you said, going home to your family. So, I would take everything off before I would enter the house, right? And then immediately, take a robe, make sure that I sanitized even before I went into the house, got a pair of gloves, walk through that. I mean, it was very scary. And because you just don't know, you don't want to harm anybody. And then also doing some self quarantine because of that. I was just exposed today. I have to be separate in the house. And then again, like even with my boy, not being able to see him, and he's isolated, and I don't want to get him, everybody's like almost in prison, if you will. And it was just horrific. It was, I can't even explain it to you. And it was just so bad. And you know what? I think the hardest thing too was our relationships with children, young children, right? I had a grandbaby, and I couldn't do anything but touch glass door, you know, when I say 2 years old, but they're looking at me as I walk away. And I thought about it. I said, I will never do that again. It's far worse to be able to not to touch somebody and just to touch a door, you know. So anyway, that being said, it's just horrific. We had people where I work that have not seen their families, and they're just seeing them now since March of last year.
Wow. That's so heartbreaking, right? And then these people that, have to, say goodbye to their family without being able to be there and be present and hold their hand and, and have that connection. I can't even imagine just, how difficult that is, right?
Right. I mean, the best you do is, have an iPad, and hold it up to their ear or whatever, hold their hand is the best that you can do. I mean, oh my God, who would have thought?
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess on one hand, we're lucky to have that, but but it's no replacement at all.
It's not the same. No.
Yeah.
And and to picture that, you picture your loved one in that state, and it's like that's with you for the rest of your life. It's terrible.
Yeah. And you mentioned children. I think this might be a good time to mention the positive that you're doing, right? Through Nurse and Blues. Can you tell me about that and how that came about?
Steve, I love you for asking about that, because it's really important for me to talk a little bitty about that, right? So, okay, I told you the issue with my son. So for me, I thought to myself, well, okay, how do I combine the two talents that I've been given, right? So I'm a blues singer and music. And then I'm a nurse. So what I did is I used the model of nursing, which is kind of like, if you will, body, spirit, and mind. I'll make it brief, right? Whatever. And everything's got to be healthy or you're not healthy. So I thought, well, why don't I use music as an opportunity to heal, right? Because with chemical dependency, it's very difficult to express those inner feelings, right? So blues couldn't be a better genre to do that, right? So we created the program, but here's the difference. I don't go and I sing. As much as I love to sing, I don't go to any rehab center and sing. What I have is a board certified music therapist, and she creates musical interventions, okay? And so those are opportunities where sometimes, things come out through music that they probably can't journal, for example. So we have been doing this for quite a bit. We've had probably, because the pandemic shut down, prior to that, about 1,500 people we've served. And we go to a girls' campus of 15-year-olds, and also an adult campus. But if you can imagine sitting all these little girls, pigtails, they're all singing around, and they're in a rehab center. But anyway, some of them are singing Etta James. Another one is doing, other types of lyrics with their music. It's incredible. It's incredible. And so we're active with that. We're starting up again. Pandemic's a little more under control. So we'll be starting it again.
Yeah. And what does that look like as you're getting back into it? Are there a lot of changes that you have to make for COVID reasons and that sort of thing?
Right. I think what's going to happen most importantly, it's going to be outside. I think that's the safest way to do it. We try to do a Zoom like we're doing, but it's not interactive enough. And then, of course, there's some technical issues, and she, the therapist couldn't hear, so it really wasn't working. Plus, it's obviously much better in person,
Yeah.
But we're so happy about that. I gotta honestly tell you, it's pretty eclectic. It's different.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool to be able to do that. Yeah. And as we wind down, really positive note. I saw you have like 2 babies coming this summer. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I got 2 babies coming, and one's in July and one's in August. I'm like, what? Yeah, do you believe it? Yeah, there we go. So I'm excited, and I'm hoping this pandemic is all down so I can kiss them and hug them and do all the things we're supposed to do.
Yeah. You got to shower them with love and everything. And there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
And this whole thing has challenged us all in, completely different ways, but it's this thing that, that we're all affected by. And so while it, I feel like in some ways it's divided us, but it's also brought us together, if that makes sense, because we all have this experience, right? And we have to, we all have a story of how this affected us, and what our takeaways are, and hopefully have grown, in some ways, through the other side of it, right?
I think you're absolutely right. I think the fact that that's one shared experience we have. You're absolutely right. And there's nothing that could ever define it. It's nothing that we have past experience in, right? So what's
Yeah.
right and wrong? But you're right, a tremendous loss, But we are looking to the future. And I feel that now. I do feel that, at least where we are. I do feel that. I feel like we're coming around the corner and slow, and there's still going to be little bumps in the road, but we need to stay positive. And that kind of is like a fire. If you're positive, other people definitely will be. Don't you think, Steve?
Oh, I think so. You gotta spread it, right? So, yeah. So, do you have any shows lined up? Are you kind of looking at booking anything right now?
Yeah, we are booking. As a matter of fact, it's slow where I am. And unfortunately, they're looking at a really low capacity and all of that stuff, which we totally appreciate. But yeah, as a matter of fact, when the album drops, we'll be actually performing then. It'll be in Western New York. But hopefully, as things start to open up, we'd like to go and do our traveling thing as we have before, So yeah, we got to pay attention to the pandemic, but we're working.
Can do it safely. There's ways, right? So
yeah, that's right. That's right. And Lord knows, I'll tell you one thing. I said to myself, maybe it's a good thing you haven't performed for a while, because all of a sudden, all that stuff that's inside, woo, it sounds really darn good.
yeah. Any music is great at this point, right? So I miss live shows so much. I'm ready to get back to first concert out there. I don't know when or what, but it needs to also be the right conditions and safely and everything.
Well, it does. You got to be smart about it. You certainly can't go backwards. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I know you're excited for the album to come out here next month, which is really cool. And congratulations on pulling it together.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so nice talking to you.
It was nice talking to you as well, Patty. And I hopefully see you out here on the West Coast at some point. I'm in the Bay Area, so.
Oh, great! Yeah, I actually have I have a son that works as a border patrolman in California. So who knows?
Nice, very cool. All right. Okay. Good luck on the rehearsals and everything, and I wish you the best of luck with the new album. Okay.
Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate your time.
That was the interview with Patti Parks here on Concert Pipeline. And Jens, that takes us to the final segment of the program. What is it?
It does. It takes us to our famous segment where we share the world of music news to our audience.
That is right. Okay, we each have a couple of stories here. What's going on in the music news? First off, Jens, my story is about Kanye West.
Kanye, all right. What's going on with Kanye?
Or Kane, as you say, right?
I love it when you pronounce his name first, because then I can remember how to pronounce it.
You can echo. You're good at the echoing. But if
Yes.
I were to give you this story, you would probably have diverted back to Kane, wouldn't you?
I would have, or Kanye, or can't. So Kanye, thank you. Yep. What's going on with him?
Well, he has Nike Airs, okay? And so let me tell you about these shoes. A prototype of his Nike Air Yeezy 1 shoe, which he wore at the 2008 Grammys, set a new sneaker sale record when it sold for. Take a stab at how much these shoes sold for at a private sale.
Are these one of a kind, like made just for him?
They are, yes. Well, they were, they're very unique, right? He wore them.
And I'm gonna say $1 million.
You're low, actually. You are.
What? I'm low? Are you serious? Like, how low is low?
Is low? Is he okay? Yeah, we got
my little dog is vomiting. He's on a hunger strike, and he's not eating the food he's supposed to eat. So I don't know what he's eating, but he's throwing it up right now. Anyway.
Yeah, you're way low on the price of this pair of sneakers.
We've done
1.8 million.
1.8. Oh, Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, my next guess was going to be, 1.25.
You would still be low.
Still low.
Yeah. So the sneaker investing platform Rares made the purchase, which reportedly broke the record for the most expensive public sale of a sneaker by almost 3 times Jens. The previous record holder was a pair of 1985 Air Jordan 1s designed and worn by Michael Jordan, which sold in 2020 for $560,000. And
$560,000. And this was 1.8.
Yes. So
this is insane.
I mean, this is nuts. This is the first recorded sneaker sale for over $1 million. And this was a kind of an unofficial launch for his serious sneaker ambitions. I guess he has ambitions beyond just selling this one pair of sneakers. And although he's dabbed in fashion before, even designing a shoe for Louis Vuitton, Kanye's Air Yeezy collaboration with Nike was an unparalleled success. So of course they want to make more, right?
Right. It was more successful than his run for the presidency.
So earlier this year, while we're doing numbers, Bloomberg estimated that Yeezy is worth, how much would you say Kanye West, which you can't even pronounce his name, how much is he worth?
You're asking the wrong person.
I just want to hear you throw out a number.
Yeah, I'm just going to say 25 million.
3.2 to 4.7 billion.
Why?
With a B.
Why? Why is he worth anything? I don't get it.
Your guess is as good as mine, but yeah, these sneakers selling for 1.8 million is a drop in the bucket compared to his actual worth, huh?
Crazy. I mean, he's obviously got some talent that is beyond me. I'm going to be okay with just not getting it.
We'll just have to be okay with that. So yeah. All right, Jens, you got a story for us?
I do.
And you should bring this Sick Jaeger up on camera, by the way, for those watching on YouTube. So
yes, for those watching, here's my little doggy who just vomited, and I'm not sure why, but we'll figure out later. He's good now. How are you guys doing? Wah-ha! Okay, so I got a story. This is an artist whose name I can pronounce, although I did have a hard time with her last name for a while. But we've got a story to tell about Billie Eilish.
What's she up to?
Well, we all know that she had an album out, right?
Yes, she did. It was very successful.
Well, guess what? She's coming out with another album.
Number 2.
Yes. And so Billie announces that her second album, Happier Than Ever, is the favorite thing that she's ever created. So yeah,
she's allowed to say that because she hasn't had kids yet. So
yes, exactly. Probably. Yeah. I mean, you know what? But there's this photo of her. I don't know if this is going to be the album cover or what, but she doesn't look happy at all. She looks like a mannequin. She looks either like she's a mannequin or they've cloned her and made her some sort of android. She looks like she's actually starting to have a seizure.
Yeah, it's a bit concerning, isn't it?
It is a little freaky, but you know what? Billie Eilish is amazing, and I'm sure it's all part of her image and this just amazing. What am I trying to think? What's the word I'm trying to say?
Marketing.
Marketing. Thank you. This is just amazing marketing push. She has fantastic hair. She's all blonde, and maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just not used to the whole blonde look. And there she is.
Yeah.
Wow, you are crazy. You must work for like a tech company or something. How did you do that? We got Billie Eilish on the screen. So you guys see what I'm saying? I mean, she's beautiful, but she kind of looks like she's having like the very beginning of a seizure, or she looks like she's being controlled by a third party.
By extraterrestrial forces. Got it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, here I need to accept the story that you just airdropped me. Okay, so
That was like a
that
minute
was
ago.
like 20 minutes ago. Okay, so let me scroll through this again. Anyway, so album is called Happier Than Ever, and it's coming this summer. Yeah, woohoo. So that's something to look forward to, summer of 2021. And she announces that the When We All Fall Asleep follow-up after billboards featuring the forthcoming record's title and release date of July 30th popped up in cities across the globe. So I guess when we talk summer, we're talking July 30th, right?
Yeah, that's not too far away.
This is exciting.
Yeah.
Have you
I'm sure
seen the
it'll be-
documentary on her?
I have not. Did you watch it?
No, but it's on my watch list, and I've always wanted to watch it because she has, a super interesting life story to tell. So my new album, Happier Than Ever, out July 30th. This is my favorite thing I've ever created, and I'm so excited and nervous. And eager for you to hear it. She wrote on Instagram today. That's got to be so exciting for her, right? She says, I can't even tell you, I've never felt so much love for a project than I do for this one. Hope you feel what I feel. The singer also revealed that she will share a new single from the album this Thursday. Oh my God, that's like 2 days from now. At 5 p.m. BST, whatever BST is. What is that?
British Standard Time? I don't know.
British Standard Time. It's not Greenwich, so it must be British, which is
I don't know.
before or after
It's later than
Greenwich.
us. Well, it happens before us, but anyway.
Yeah, I think it's like 6 or 7 hours, 7 or 8 hours, 8 hours maybe. I don't know, before California. So anyway, you can see the post below and pre-order. Well, you don't know what article I'm reading, so there's a post and you can pre-order and pre-save the full record. But basically, we're talking probably the morning of this coming Thursday.
All right, check it out.
Yeah.
One more story for you, Jens, and you know who it involves?
It involves our friend, Mr. Dave Grohl.
That is right. So this week in Foo Fighters / Dave Grohl news, Dave Grohl recruited Chris Novoselic and Dave Lombardo back to back his daughter Violet on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Okay.
So Dave and his daughter performed on Jimmy Kimmel Live. It was pretty cool.
When was this?
This was this past week. They did a song, a cover actually, and so I'll tell you about it. They performed a cover of Nausea by LA Punk's X, and they roped in those other guys that are familiar from Nirvana to add weight to their performance. So the father and daughter duo were joined by Chris Novoselic and ex-Slayer / current Dead Cross, Suicidal Tendencies, and Misfits drummer Dave Lombardo, and Foo Fighters producer Greg Kurstin for their performance that was on April 27th on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
I'll say.
Yes. And they recorded the cover for the soundtrack to the Foo Fighters frontman's forthcoming documentary film, What Drives Us. Not to be confused with his forthcoming documentary series, From Cradle to Stage, which is the one with his mom, where she talks to rock stars, parents, mothers
right.
and stuff, right? So
we spoke about that. Yeah. Like, one person shouldn't have so many documentaries. It gets confusing.
It is. He's just documenting far too much, isn't he?
Right.
Yes. So that is good news, and you can check that out online, of course. So.
Cool. Something to look forward to again.
Yes. So that is our show, Jens. So I want to thank Patti for being on the program, and I'm going to let you know who we have on the program next week. We have an artist, let me see, I'm pulling it up, a band named Wildorado. So the train keeps on rolling.
Is that Will Dorado, like Will I Am?
No, it's all one word, like
It's all one
Silverado,
word.
but
Oh, gotcha. Will Dorado. Okay, I was confused there. I get it now. Will Dorado.
yeah. We'll talk all about it next week, won't we? So for all of us here at Concert Pipeline, that's Jen Schippo.
And that is Steve Jones.
Catch you next time.
See ya.